Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I'm going to talk a little bit about my Korean language, learning progress, I guess, process, what I've done so far, where I've learned it, how I feel about where I'm at, and kind of where my end goals are. So first of all, I've been studying Korean officially for about 2.5 years now. That's when I've taken classes and had tutoring lessons and all of that. Unofficially, it's been like 5 years, but that was not, the 3 years before that or the 2.5 years before that was me just kind of learning how to read Hangul really well, maybe picking up key phrases here and there, just kind of repeating the things I heard a lot in dramas or through K-pop or through my friends that I knew. I was just trying to kind of absorb as much of it as I could and get really good at pronouncing words, which I'm still not so great at sometimes, but I am definitely better than I used to be. So that's kind of where I started. To say a little bit in Korean, just so you can see, please don't judge me. I am still very much a student. 저는 한국어를 2년 공부했어요. 열심히 해야죠 해요. 한국어를 너무 좋아해요. 힘들어요. Yeah, so anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. Now, what have I done so far? So, first of all, like I said, I kind of started teaching on my own. I had been into dramas since I was like a teenager, but I got into K-pop when I decided to start learning the language. Anybody that I looked up online that offered advice to people who were learning on their own was the best way to pronounce things correctly and to learn how to read Hangul in a nice, smooth manner was to listen to the music and read the lyrics along with it. I have found that advice to be invaluable. I highly recommend doing so. The word K-pop, everyone always tends to think of only like BTS or idol bands, but if you don't like that kind of music, that's okay. There's so much music in the Korean music world that I listen to, that I adore. I'm a big rock person. I love rock bands, so anytime I find like a band, I will always just marathon their music and just have it on as a playlist in the background. That's the other thing that I've done a lot of, is I surround myself with the language as much as possible, meaning I don't really listen to American music much these days, just because I'm constantly trying to make it second nature for me to hear them and pick out words that I know. I watch a lot of Korean variety shows and dramas and news shows, anything I can, again, just to get that repetition and to absorb the language. And then I went to a community college in Las Vegas for the last 2 years. I lived there for 7 years. And before I moved here to Alabama, I was there and I started studying Korean through the college. It was actually the only place in Las Vegas that offered Korean language learning at all. The major university, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, does not have Korean language as an option, which is really interesting. Vegas is such a melting pot of cultures and languages. But what the school basically said was they don't have a demand for learning the Korean language, but they do have a lot of Korean foreign exchange students studying there. Now, I did get to do my 2 full years of class time at the community college. It's the College of Southern Nevada, CSN. So I did that there. Now, my Korean teacher, I took the same teacher all 2 years, all 4 semesters. I love her. She was amazing. She was from Korea. She was very positive and really worked with us on our pronunciation and our basic grammar understanding. I would say the only thing we didn't get a lot of was actual conversational practicing. So I have a really good grasp on the grammar of Korea. My vocabulary is probably lacking as far as being able to remember to speak it, but I do understand quite a bit. After classes ended, I wanted to continue my Korean education. But my business path through the University of Rochester doesn't leave a lot of room in my schedule for additional foreign language classes. I've already taken 2 years and those transferred in and counted as my credits. So I decided to start taking private tutoring lessons on my own. Now, to preface this, when I first started classes, I was also doing private tutoring with one of my very close friends. Her name is Sing. I'm actually going to link her Korean lessons down below if anyone is interested. Her prices are totally worth it. She is incredible. She gave me such a good, solid understanding that my first semester in my Korean class was such a breeze for me because she had already taught me everything and she did it really quickly. She really breaks down the pronunciation and gets you better at reading Hangul. She also explains to you the why behind these grammatical rules, which is something that I think is often skipped over in classes because they don't have a lot of time. Now, if you're not a why person, that might not appeal to you, but I am. I love to know the why behind things. It helps me understand the concept better. So Sing is phenomenal at explaining that to you guys. I would 10 out of 10 recommend her to anybody. And she has passed a level 4, I believe, on the TOPIK exam, maybe level 5. I can't quite remember, but she's got it all listed on her website. So she definitely knows what she's doing, and she's great for people of a lot of different Korean experience. After Sing and after these last 2 years, I was trying to find a tutor that worked a little bit better with my schedule. I work full-time nights and it conflicts a lot with Sing, and we just had a hard time kind of hooking up a little bit these days. So I went to an online platform, especially because I'm remote now, and it's called italki. Now that's something that I like to do because you can work with multiple tutors at the same time. You can take very cheap, I guess, like practice sessions with tutors if you really want to try them out, and you can try out an unlimited number of tutors until you find one that really works for you. And usually the practice sessions are only like $5 or $10. So I find that really worth it. And then there's all kinds of price ranges for the tutors that they offer on there. But they are all great. I've tutored with about 4 different people on that site now. I have one that I'm working with at the moment that I adore. Unfortunately, my learning is still pretty sporadic because, again, my finances aren't so great, so I can't afford to do it every week like I want to. However, she always has a very set lesson plan for me. We have really smooth conversational practices. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit cheaper than maybe someone that's as distinguished as Sing is, she might be out of some people's price range, which I understand, and you want a lot of options in scheduling, I would do italki. Now italki, because there's so many different tutors, you kind of pick tutors based off of your availability, and they'll give you a list of tutors that match that availability, that have lessons offered during those time frames. It's really easy to connect that way. Now, most of my tutors actually live in Korea because of my schedule, and that just happens to be the time frame when I'm available. Is the middle of my night is when they're in their day or towards their evening. So it works out really well. That might not be the case for a lot of people depending on where you live and your time zones and your schedule. So just kind of browse through it and see what works for you. But I've done that. The other thing that I do, I use Duolingo, and Duolingo is just kind of like a flashcard thing for me that I'll do on my phone when I'm on break at work or just kind of sitting around the house or something. Duolingo is really great because it gives you new vocabulary to work on. It pronounces the word for you so you know how to pronounce it correctly, and it will use it in a sentence. So that is something that's really good to supplement with other things. I would not use it solely. I don't think it's good enough for that, but definitely a good substitute, and complement, I guess. It's a good complement for other learning services. I do also have Rosetta Stone. So I started Rosetta Stone when I got it free through my job at Tesla in Las Vegas 2 years ago. Now, I have used it pretty sporadically since then because my schedule is crazy. I work full-time nights in full-time school and take tutoring lessons. So I haven't been as good with Rosetta Stone as I want to be. However, I have found a lot of benefit from it. It's really good at just kind of getting those words to pop into your head because it gives you a picture. And then from that picture, it just says the word. There's no English translation. It's like showing you kind of the way a child would learn naturally in their environment. It's showing you what this is. And then it builds off of the vocabulary and it turns them into sentences. And you can really start to get the feel of what Korean language is supposed to sound like and how you should say it. I would say their speech recognition is a little funny sometimes, but beyond that, it's a great program if you can afford it. Get the lifetime one. I know Megan Bowen has had a whole video, if you know her. She's got a whole video about Rosetta Stone. I would recommend you go watch it and see if her discount code is still active. But for me, by compiling all of these different studying tools, I feel like my language learning is really coming along. Now, I'm definitely not where I would like to be at this point. I really thought I would be a little bit further. Life definitely got in the way. COVID sucks. It's taken everything in a new direction for me. Also, me transferring to Rochester was not originally in the plan. So I moved very spontaneously. I did not expect to get into such a good school. So it was very sporadic this year. And it's really taken me this long to get settled where I am and really, I guess, settled in at work at the new hospital. And we've been really short there, so work's been really crazy. So I do plan on amping up all of my language learning again here in the very near future, and I'll keep you guys updated on that. But my end goal is to be as fluent as absolutely possible. In order to work in the business world in Korea, you have to get a 5 or 6 on the national language exam, which is called the TOPIK exam. So in order to get a level 5 or 6, that means you have to basically be a native speaker at that point. Like, you have to be able to completely converse. You have to know like history of the country and all kinds of things. So that is my end goal. I don't think originally I wanted to be there or as close to there as I could get before I actually moved to Korea. I don't see that happening. I definitely think it's going to take a little bit more time for me to get to where I want to be. But I think it's also good. There are all kinds of options for Korean learning once you get to Korea for foreigners, which I think that in Seoul they even offer free classes for people who want to keep learning the language. So that's something that I will probably do once I get there. But in the meantime, I'm just going to try and continue and get as good as I can be until I leave. So yeah, that's basically it. That's where I am. Those are all of the different tools that I have used. If you guys have any questions about any of that, feel free to ask me down in the comments. You can also, recommend, if you guys have a really great tutoring system that you use, please feel free to recommend it down below. But other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day today. Please stay safe, wear your masks, and I'll see you later. Bye.